There's a sound astronauts get used to on the ISS, a constant fan hum, punctuated by little clicks, pumps, valves, air moving on purpose. Because in space, quiet is usually a problem. And keeping that artificial bubble alive, it costs about $11.2 million every single day. That's roughly $468,000 an hour, about $7,800 a minute, and around $130 every second, just to keep the International Space Station running. So today, we're doing this exactly like a cost per day deep dive. What does $11.2 million actually buy? Where does it go? And why can't NASA just turn down the thermostat and save money? Quick question to lock you in. If you were forced to cut one thing to lower that daily cost, what do you cut? More science? Fewer cargo flights? Less redundancy? Drop your pick in the comments, because this is one of those sounds easy until you live there problems. And if you like the real mechanics of life in space, the unglamorous stuff that actually keeps humans breathing, hit like and subscribe. Let's break down the most expensive apartment in low Earth orbit. The $11.2 million day. First, where does that number come from? NASA's own watchdog, the Office of Inspector General, has said the ISS and related operations and research cost about $4.1 billion per year. Divide that across a year and you land at about $11.2 million per day. Now here's the key point. That run cost isn't just electricity and duct tape. It's a full-time, global, 24/7 ecosystem built around one idea. Keep a crew alive, keep the station healthy, and keep the research flowing, while orbiting Earth in a place that wants everything dead. So when you hear $11.2 million per day, you should picture a power plant, a water recycling facility, a life support factory, a shipping network, a mission control enterprise, a maintenance program, and a safety system designed for emergencies you can't drive away from. Because on Earth, if something breaks, you call a technician. On the ISS, if something breaks, you become the technician. And the technician is also the firefighter, and the medic, and the plumber, and the electrician, and the person who has to sleep 6 hours later. A $100 billion build you still have to maintain. The title says $100 billion, and that's not hype pulled from nowhere. A NASA Inspector General report described the ISS build as roughly $60 billion to NASA, plus about $40 billion for associated space shuttle flights, putting the total near $100 billion. So think of it like this. The ISS is not a project that finished. It's more like a city that got built and then immediately started aging in public. And it's a weird kind of aging. On Earth, buildings rot because of water, wind, and time. In orbit, hardware ages because of radiation, thermal cycling, hot, cold, tiny impacts from micrometeoroids and orbital debris, and relentless vibration from pumps, fans, and rotating machinery. The station is massive. It's been described as weighing over 925,000 pounds, powered by nearly an acre of solar panels. And inside, the pressurized volume is about the same as a Boeing 747. So when you say run cost, you're really saying, how much does it cost to keep a 747-sized living habitat alive while it's floating 250 miles up with no hardware store nearby? That's why this daily cost doesn't shrink easily, because the only cheap space station is the one you don't send people to. And that's kind of the whole point. The life support bubble: air, water, pressure, temperature. If you want to understand the ISS budget in one sentence, it's this: life support is boring until it isn't, and then it's everything. The station has to do 4 things non-stop: keep the air breathable, keep the pressure stable, keep the temperature controlled, keep the water loop closed. Air comes first. On the ISS, you can't crack a window. You can't air out a smell. You can't escape carbon dioxide buildup by walking outside. So the station runs constant ventilation, filtration, and CO2 control. If CO2 rises, crew performance drops. Headaches, poor sleep, foggy thinking, and in the wrong scenario, it becomes a safety issue. Then oxygen. The station can generate oxygen and also relies on stored supplies. That means power, plumbing, sensors, and maintenance. And every subsystem has to be monitored because you don't get a second chance with air. Now water. Water in orbit isn't just water, it's drinking water. It's food prep, it's hygiene, it's medical, and it's also tied to oxygen generation. So NASA runs a closed-loop system where a lot of water gets recovered and reused. That's not a nice to have. That's how you avoid constantly launching tons of water like it's bottled spring water from Costco. Then temperature. Here's the part most people don't picture. Space is cold, yes, but the station also overheats. The ISS is full of electronics, computers, power converters, fans, lights, pumps, experiment racks, all dumping heat into the station's interior. On Earth, heat escapes through air and convection. In orbit, heat mostly escapes through thermal systems designed to radiate it away. So cooling is not optional. Cooling is survival. And this is why keeping astronauts alive is not just a dramatic phrase, it's literal systems engineering. If you strip life support down to the bare minimum, you could maybe survive for a while. But NASA isn't paying $11.2 million per day to barely survive. NASA pays for margin, for redundancy, for the ability to handle problems at 2 a.m. when the next help is a rocket away. Power, the orbital utility company. Let's talk about the station's power bill, because in space, power is life. The ISS runs on solar arrays, a lot of them, and nearly an acre of solar panels sounds like a fun trivia fact, until you realize what that implies. You're maintaining a giant orbital power plant with parts that age, in an environment that punishes everything. That power doesn't just feed lights, it feeds life support, cooling, computers, communications, navigation systems, experiment racks, charging batteries, and the endless network of sensors that tell everyone the station is still healthy. And it's not one smooth flow. The station goes into orbital night regularly, so you need energy storage, batteries, power management, switching systems, controllers. Power also ties directly into thermal control. You generate heat to run systems, and then you have to remove that heat reliably. So the power category isn't just the solar panels. It's everything connected to generation, storage, distribution, thermal management, fault detection, and the spares and maintenance to keep it from cascading. This is where the daily cost starts to feel less like NASA spending money and more like NASA buying insurance against physics, because the station can't drift into low power mode like a phone. If you drop power too hard, you lose cooling. If you lose cooling, electronics get stressed. If electronics get stressed, you get failures. If you get failures, you burn crew time. If crew time gets burned, you lose science. If science gets lost, the station becomes a very expensive camping trip. NASA doesn't get to run the ISS like a budget airline. It has to run it like a hospital ICU. The supply chain: cargo, fuel, spares, trash. If you want the simplest reason the ISS costs millions per day, it's this. The station is not self-sustaining. It's sustained. It needs a supply chain. And in space, supply chain means rockets. Food, clothing, science payloads, spare parts, tools, medical kits, hygiene supplies. All of it has to be launched. Then there's the stuff nobody puts on posters: filters, seals, valves, batteries, pump components, laptop replacements, air sampling gear, cleaning wipes, and the weird little brackets and adapters that keep everything from turning into a zip-tied mess, plus fuel and propulsion planning. The ISS has to manage its orbit over time. It does reboosts. It plans around visiting vehicles. It manages attitude and control. And then, trash. The station generates waste, like any city, packaging, used equipment, expired supplies, and sometimes large hardware that's done. Trash doesn't just go away. It becomes cargo. It gets packed. It's loaded into a departing vehicle that burns up on re-entry. That entire loop costs money. Hardware costs, launch costs, operations costs, training and procedures, ground teams coordinating every detail. Here's the part to really feel. On Earth, the delivery truck is a line item. Up there, the delivery truck is a spacecraft. And delivery includes integration, safety reviews, schedules, and planning that can't slip. Because the station doesn't get to miss a shipment of life support parts. There's no, "we'll catch up next week," when you're talking about breathable air and clean water. And that's why the biggest costs aren't glamorous. They're logistical. The ground army, mission control, software, training. Here's the part people forget. The ISS isn't run by the crew alone. It's run by a planet. Up there, the astronauts are the hands. Down here, thousands of people are the nervous system, mission control, engineering back rooms, flight controllers, medical teams, payload specialists, safety teams, communications, data systems, planning teams building timelines down to the minute. And that support isn't part-time, it's continuous. Because if a warning light pops at 3 a.m. Houston time, it's still a warning light. And this is where run cost becomes very real. You are paying for a 24/7 operation that has to be ready for the weird stuff. A leaky valve, a computer glitch, a sensor that reads wrong, a piece of hardware that starts behaving off-nominal, a strange smell, a medical symptom that needs a decision now. Then there's software. The ISS is basically a flying network. Computers and control systems everywhere. And software doesn't just exist. It's maintained, updated, tested, verified, protected, because a software failure in orbit isn't a restart your router inconvenience. It can become a safety risk. Then training. Every minute on the ISS is planned, rehearsed, and procedurally supported. Astronauts train for hardware swaps years before they do them. Flight controllers rehearse failures. Medical teams train for contingencies. Because when something goes sideways, you don't have time to invent a plan from scratch. Halfway check-in. If you're still watching, you're clearly into the nuts and bolts of space living. Tap subscribe, because the next part is where the cost gets brutal. Maintenance, risk, and repairs you can't outsource. Repairs in orbit, maintenance that never ends. On Earth, maintenance is a line item. In orbit, maintenance is a lifestyle. The ISS is old enough that parts wear out. Some are designed to be swapped, some are not. So NASA maintains two realities at once. The station is a research lab, and the station is a maintenance project that never ends. That's why the station needs a steady flow of spare parts. Because if a pump fails, you don't want to be waiting months for a replacement. If a critical piece of life support starts degrading, you want options. And here's what makes the ISS uniquely expensive. You don't just buy spares. You buy spares that can survive launch. Spare parts that are compatible with systems designed decades ago. Spare parts that must be certified for safety. Spare parts that have to be tracked, stored, and installed in microgravity. Then you pay crew time. Every hour an astronaut spends swapping a component is an hour they're not doing experiments. So NASA is constantly balancing science time versus maintenance time. And when you hear astronauts talk about life on board, you hear it. The station is a job, A lot of that job is routine maintenance. Even simple tasks become hard when tools float away, cables drift, tiny parts become hazards, and every action has to be deliberate. Sometimes maintenance happens inside, sometimes it happens outside. And when spacewalks are required, the cost stack climbs. Special suits, consumables, crew time, ground support, planning, risk management. And risk isn't abstract here. The ISS has to deal with micrometeoroids and orbital debris. NASA tracks debris, plans avoidance maneuvers when needed, and builds procedures around that constant hazard. So the maintenance bucket isn't a single repair. It's an ongoing campaign. Inspect, replace, upgrade, test, repeat. Why the price tag is hard to shrink. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, but why not just make it cheaper? Here's the brutal answer. NASA can shave around the edges, but the core cost drivers are structural. Because the station's daily cost comes from a few unavoidable facts. Human presence is expensive. Humans need air, water, food, hygiene, medical oversight, and safety systems. Orbit is expensive. Everything that goes up must be launched, tracked, and supported. Reliability is expensive. NASA doesn't run a station the way you run a hobby project. It's built on redundancy and risk reduction. And the station's age is expensive. Older systems mean more maintenance, more uncertainty, and more effort to keep performance stable. That's why operating costs can stay steady for long stretches, but the risk profile rises. It's why the conversation about what comes after the ISS is so intense. Because if you replace the ISS with commercial stations, you're not eliminating the cost of human spaceflight. You're shifting who owns the hardware, who manages the operations, and how NASA buys the service. But as long as humans live in orbit, you are paying to fight physics every day. What $11.2 million actually buys every day? So let's put the whole thing in plain terms. If you could follow the money for one day of ISS operations, you would see a chunk paying for transportation because rockets are the delivery trucks of orbit. A chunk paying for operations and maintenance because life support and station hardware don't care about weekends. A chunk paying for ground support, mission control, engineering, communications, planning, because the crew is never truly alone. A chunk paying for research, because the ISS isn't just survival, it's a laboratory doing work you cannot do on Earth. And all of it wrapped in safety systems, redundancy, and constant readiness. That's the part that makes this title true. Run is not a metaphor here. Run means keep the air moving, keep the water clean, keep the temperature stable, keep the power flowing, keep the orbit manageable, keep the crew safe, keep the station useful, every day. And when you realize the station is roughly a Boeing 747-sized pressurized habitat powered by an acre of solar panels circling hundreds of miles above Earth, $11.2 million per day starts to feel less like a random number and more like the price of keeping a tiny human world alive where humans were never meant to live. Final question for you. If you could spend one day on the ISS, would you spend it doing science? Or would you spend it touring the hidden systems, the life support rooms, the power guts, the keep us alive machinery? Tell me about your pick in the comments. And if you want more videos like this, real life in space explained like a working system, hit like, tap subscribe, and stay with us. Because up there, survival is engineered, and the bill never stops.